My mother forged my signature, took control of the company, and stole my 15 main clients for a shell company in her name, destroying 8 years of dedication in consulting. I woke up on a freezing Tuesday in July with the deafening noise of moving trucks parking in front of my business consulting office, discovering through the furious shouts of my own employees that my mother had forged my signature on dissolution documents and transferred all my 15 most important clients to a shell company registered exclusively in her name, destroying in a single morning the 8 years of hard work I had invested in building my professional reputation in the corporate consulting market. The metallic sound of truck doors opening echoed through the glass walls of the office building like war drums announcing my professional ruin, while uniformed men carried equipment, furniture, and especially my clients' confidential files, representing contracts worth over $500,000 in guaranteed annual revenue. My employees ran desperately through the hallways trying to prevent confidential documents from being taken by people claiming to have legal authorization signed by me to remove everything related to clients transferred to new corporate management, which I had never authorized because I didn't even know any transfer process existed. The feeling was exactly like waking up inside a Kafkaesque nightmare, where my professional reality had been hijacked during sleep by someone with unrestricted access to my personal documents, who knew my signature perfectly due to decades of intimate family life, and especially knew exactly which were my most valuable and profitable clients that would justify all the criminal effort needed to legally steal them through elaborate document fraud. The morning air, unusually cold for July in Brazil, seemed to freeze my lungs with each desperate breath I took while watching strangers methodically dismantling the physical structure of my professional achievements, carrying away not just office furniture and electronic equipment, but the very essence of what I had built with sweat, sleepless nights, and an almost obsessive dedication to excellence in business consulting. It was like discovering a thief had broken into my house during the night, but instead of stealing easily replaceable material objects, had stolen my professional identity, my reputation built through years of honest work, and especially my ability to financially support my family through the career I had consciously chosen and meticulously developed since college graduation. The fluorescent lights of the office building corridor flickered erratically, creating dancing shadows on the walls that seemed to mock my growing desperation as I tried to process the surreal scene unfolding before my increasingly incredulous eyes. "Mr. Ricardo, we need to talk urgently about documents that arrived this morning authorizing the transfer of specific clients to a new consulting company registered under Vera Santos Silva, who, according to official papers, is your majority partner with unilateral dissolution rights over existing contracts," said Marina, my administrative assistant for 4 years, with a trembling voice revealing her confusion about legal procedures that seemed legitimate, but which no one at the company had authorized or even known about. Marina's usually impeccable appearance was disheveled, her normally perfectly styled black hair falling in disarray around her worried face, and her hands shook visibly as she held the stack of official-looking documents that would supposedly justify the systematic destruction of everything we had built together over years of collaborative work. The way she avoided direct eye contact with me, focusing instead on the papers trembling in her hands, revealed she was struggling to reconcile the Ricardo she knew, methodical, organized, protective of his business, with someone who would supposedly authorize such drastic changes without even informing his most trusted employees. My mind tried to process contradictory information that made no sense within the reality I knew about my own company. Vera Santos Silva was my 62-year-old mother, a woman I had helped financially for the last 10 years due to her insufficient retirement and chronic health problems limiting her ability to work, but who had never been my partner in any business venture because she had no technical knowledge, professional experience, or financial capital needed to participate in a specialized business consulting company. The cognitive dissonance between what I absolutely knew to be true about my company's structure and what these apparently legitimate documents claimed created a mental vertigo that made me grip the corridor wall for physical support, feeling the cold marble under my sweaty palms as reality itself seemed to dissolve into contradictory fragments. Throughout the history of my professional career, from opening the company 8 years earlier until that devastating morning, I had been the sole legal owner of Ricardo Business Consulting LLC, with 100% of the ownership shares registered exclusively in my name in the Articles of Incorporation filed with the Commerce Registry, without ever signing any document including my mother as partner, business associate, or authorized legal representative to make decisions about clients, contracts, or company operations. The discovery that apparently legitimate official documents declared Vera as majority partner with unilateral dissolution powers made me question my own sanity. as if I could have developed selective amnesia about fundamental business decisions I had supposedly made consciously at some forgotten moment in the recent past. My hands began trembling uncontrollably as I fumbled with my smartphone, trying to access my digital files to verify the original incorporation documents. But my fingers seemed disconnected from my brain's commands, repeatedly hitting wrong keys as panic clouded my normally sharp analytical abilities. The familiar weight of the phone in my hand, an object I used dozens of times daily for business communications, suddenly felt foreign and hostile, as if technology itself had turned against me in this surreal conspiracy to erase my professional existence. I ran desperately to my private office on the 12th floor of the office building, stumbling on the stairs due to adrenaline making my heart race irregularly, my chest feeling like it might explode from the combination of physical exertion and emotional trauma coursing through my body like liquid fire. Each step up the stairwell echoed hollowly in the enclosed space, the sound bouncing off concrete walls in a rhythm that matched my erratic heartbeat, while my vision blurred at the edges from the surge of stress hormones flooding my system. I turned on my laptop with fingers shaking so badly I got the password wrong 5 consecutive times before finally accessing my corporate email through the internet connection that seemed to work in slow motion, as if even technology was conspiring to prolong my growing agony. The familiar startup sound of my computer, usually a comforting signal of another productive workday beginning, now seemed like a death knell announcing the end of everything I had worked to achieve. The familiar blue screen of the management system loaded with torturous slowness, each pixel appearing to form at a glacial pace while my mind raced through increasingly catastrophic scenarios about what I might discover in my email inbox. The progress bar showing the system loading seemed frozen at 67% for what felt like hours but was probably only seconds, during which I experienced the peculiar time dilation that occurs during moments of extreme crisis, where consciousness becomes hyper-aware of every minute detail while simultaneously feeling disconnected from physical reality. Each second seemed an eternity of growing anxiety, making my stomach contract in painful spasms, until I could finally view dozens of urgent emails sent by my most important clients during the last 48 hours, all formally communicating they had decided to accept the transition to new corporate management of my company and would be working exclusively with the new administration led by majority partner Vera Santos Silva starting that week. Each email was an additional stab in my chest, already bleeding from the discovery of maternal betrayal. Clients I had personally won through brilliant technical presentations delivered with passion and expertise, accumulated over years of study and practice. Professional relationships cultivated over years of exemplary work that often extended beyond business hours into genuine friendships based on mutual respect and admiration. Contracts renewed multiple times due to the superior quality of my consulting services that had consistently delivered results exceeding even the most optimistic projections, were now being transferred to a woman they didn't even know personally, but who was supposedly my long-standing business partner, according to official documentation that had arrived at their offices over the weekend. The synchronized timing of all these client communications revealed a level of coordination and planning that made my blood run cold, as I realized this wasn't an impulsive act, but a carefully orchestrated operation executed with military precision. The most devastating email came from Patricia Almeida, Executive Director of Horizon Construction, my most profitable client responsible for 40% of my company's annual revenue through project management consulting contracts that had been religiously renewed every 6 months for the last 3 years due to the excellence of results I consistently delivered. Patricia's email header appeared in bold at the top of my inbox like a judge's gavel about to deliver a death sentence, and my cursor hovered over it for several seconds before I found the courage to click and read what I already knew would be catastrophic news. Dear Ricardo, we received official documentation on Friday communicating the corporate restructuring of your consulting company, informing that starting this week, all contracted services will be executed by the new administration led by Mrs. Vera Santos Silva, who, according to legal documents, is the majority partner with authority to conduct all ongoing and future projects. Although we were surprised by the sudden change, especially considering the successful presentation you delivered just last week about our expansion strategy for the Northeastern market, the documentation appears to be in order with all necessary legal stamps and authorizations, and therefore we are formalizing the transition as requested in the official papers we received. We hope to maintain the same quality of services under new management and await Mrs. Vera's contact to schedule the first strategic alignment meeting scheduled for Thursday next week at our headquarters. Patricia's words were a financial death sentence delivered with the bureaucratic courtesy typical of corporate executives who need to maintain cordial professional relationships, even when communicating decisions that destroy the professional lives of suppliers they've worked with for years. The clinical, emotionless tone of her message contrasted sharply with the warm, collaborative relationship we had built over 3 years of working together on increasingly complex and strategic projects that had helped position Horizon Construction as a market leader in sustainable commercial development. I could almost hear her professional voice, carefully modulated to convey authority without emotion, as I read each word that systematically dismantled my professional future with surgical precision. The reality that all my most valuable contracts were being legally transferred to my own mother through documents I had never signed but appeared to have my official authorization made me feel like I was free, falling through a professional abyss from which I might never escape. The sensation was visceral, as if the floor beneath my feet had suddenly vanished and I was plummeting through endless darkness, my stomach lurching with the same sickening feeling of a roller coaster's steepest drop, except this fall had no visible bottom and no safety harness to prevent complete destruction. During 8 years of intensive work, sacrificing weekends, holidays, and countless family moments, I had meticulously built my reputation in the business consulting market through exceptional results consistently delivered even when it meant working through exhaustion and illness, professional relationships based on mutual trust and demonstrated technical competence that went far beyond mere business transactions to become genuine partnerships in success, and especially a diversified client portfolio representing solid financial stability to support my family and invest in the company's continuous growth toward my vision of becoming the leading consulting firm in the region. The discovery that all this could be legally destroyed by someone who had my personal documents and intimate knowledge of my professional life revealed a terrifying vulnerability in the legal structure supposedly protecting entrepreneurs against corporate fraud. It was like discovering the apparently solid foundations on which I had built my career were actually made of quicksand that could suck away my financial stability at any moment through elaborate document manipulations by people with privileged access to my personal life. The trust I had placed in family bonds, believing them to be sacred and inviolable, now seemed like the greatest strategic error of my professional life, a naive miscalculation that had left me exposed to predation by the very person who should have been my strongest supporter and protector. I grabbed my smartphone with hands shaking violently like leaves in the wind and dialed Vera's personal number I had memorized since childhood, but which now seemed like the phone of a dangerous stranger instead of my loving mother. I called weekly to talk about health problems, financial needs, and all the intimate family matters adult children naturally share with elderly parents. My fingers trembled so severely that I had to try 3 times to correctly input the number sequence that had been as familiar to me as my own name. Each failed attempt increasing my frustration and desperation to confront the woman who had given me life and was now systematically destroying everything that gave my life meaning and purpose. When she answered after 3 rings that seemed to stretch into eternity, her voice had a different quality I had never heard before, more confident, almost authoritarian, carrying an undertone of satisfaction that made my skin crawl with revulsion, as if she had assumed a new professional identity, dramatically contrasting with the vulnerable and dependent woman I had known for 3.5 decades. Good morning, Ricardo. I imagine you're calling about the business transition we finalized yesterday. I hope you understand I made this decision thinking about what would be best for everyone involved, especially considering you have other priorities in life and perhaps weren't dedicating the necessary attention our important clients deserve, she said, with a tone mixing maternal justification with manufactured business authority, as if speaking to a subordinate employee instead of the son who had built the entire company through personal effort and investment. The casual use of we and our clients revealed she had already mentally assumed ownership of my professional achievements, rewriting history to position herself as a legitimate business partner rather than a criminal who had stolen everything through fraud and deception. Her voice carried a rehearsed quality, as if she had practiced this conversation multiple times in front of a mirror, perfecting the blend of maternal concern and business authority that would make her crimes seem like reasonable decisions made for the collective good. The calculated coldness in Vera's voice shocked me more deeply than discovering the fraudulent documents themselves, because it revealed she had meticulously planned this betrayal long enough to develop elaborate arguments justifying her crimes as rational business decisions made in the interest of all parties involved. The woman speaking to me bore no resemblance to the mother who had sung lullabies when I was sick, celebrated my academic achievements with tears of pride, or called me her greatest treasure during our weekly conversations. This stranger wearing my mother's voice had clearly spent months, perhaps years, studying my business operations, identifying vulnerabilities, and planning the perfect moment to strike when I would be most vulnerable and least expecting betrayal from within my own family. Mom, what the hell are you talking about our company and business transition? You were never my partner, never invested a cent in the company, never participated in any business decision, and especially never signed any document authorizing you to transfer my clients anywhere, I shouted into the phone, losing the professional composure I normally maintained even during tense family conversations, because the situation had exceeded the limits of any normal family conflict that could be resolved through civilized dialogue. My voice cracked with emotion as decades of respect and affection for my mother collided violently with the present reality of her criminal actions, creating a psychological dissonance that felt like my mind might fracture from trying to hold these contradictory truths simultaneously. The words erupted from me with volcanic force, years of carefully maintained emotional control shattering in an instant, as I confronted the impossibility of my mother being both the woman who had nurtured me and the criminal who was destroying me. Ricardo, son, you need to calm down and understand things have changed significantly in recent months. I officially registered our business partnership 6 months ago, when you signed the restructuring documents I brought for you to review at home during that weekend when Beatrice was traveling for work, Vera explained with calculated patience, as if speaking to a stubborn child who couldn't understand complex adult decisions. Her tone carried a condescending quality that made my blood boil, as if she truly believed she could gaslight me into accepting a false reality where I had voluntarily signed away my company during a moment of weakness or inattention. The specific details she provided, the weekend, Beatrice's absence, were clearly chosen to plant seeds of doubt, to make me question whether exhaustion and stress might have caused me to sign something without fully understanding its implications. Her words made me feel like I was losing grip on reality, because I had no memory of signing any business partnership documents during any recent weekend, especially considering I always meticulously reviewed any legal document before signing and would never make important business decisions without consulting my wife Beatrice and my lawyer Andre, who were my main advisors for matters that could affect our family's financial stability. The possibility that I might have forgotten such a monumentally important decision attacked the very foundation of my self-identity as a careful, methodical businessman who had built success through attention to detail and cautious decision-making. Maybe you don't remember clearly because you were very stressed at that time with the Horizon construction project deadline problems, but you really signed everything necessary to formalize our business partnership that had already been working informally for over a year through my strategic contributions to developing your business, she continued, her voice taking on an almost hypnotic quality as she wove her web of lies with the skill of a practiced manipulator who had rehearsed every word and inflection. Vera's claim about my supposed signing of partnership documents I couldn't remember made me momentarily question my own mental sanity, especially considering the period she mentioned had indeed been stressful, due to tight deadlines on important projects requiring intensive work during consecutive weekends. The seed of doubt she planted grew rapidly in the fertile soil of my exhaustion and shock, spreading tendrils of uncertainty through every memory I had of that period, making me question whether stress-induced blackouts might have erased crucial moments from my consciousness. Was it possible I had signed papers without reading properly due to mental fatigue and blind trust in a mother who had never given me reasons to suspect criminal intentions? Could there be some alternate version of reality where I had actually agreed to make Vera my business partner and later forgotten due to work stress? The corrosive doubt about my own memory and judgment was almost as terrifying as discovering the fraud itself, because it questioned my fundamental competence to make important decisions and protect my professional life against external or internal threats. For several agonizing minutes that felt like hours of psychological torture, I seriously considered the possibility I might be suffering from some memory disorder making me forget crucial business decisions, or that accumulated stress from recent months had affected my ability to form lasting memories about important business-related events. My mind raced through medical articles I had read about stress-induced amnesia, dissociative disorders, and other conditions that could explain how I might have signed away half my company without remembering. The fluorescent lights in my office seemed to pulse with my accelerated heartbeat, and I had to sit down as waves of dizziness washed over me, the room spinning as I grappled with the possibility that I might be losing my mind rather than losing my company to fraud. The phone conversation with Vera continued for another tense 15 minutes. That felt like an eternity in purgatory. during which she gradually revealed details about her business restructuring plan, clearly demonstrating the level of premeditation and criminal sophistication involved in executing fraud against my company. Each revelation was like another layer of an onion being peeled away, revealing increasing depths of deception and betrayal that made me physically nauseous. She explained with disturbing pride how she had carefully studied my client portfolio for months, creating detailed spreadsheets analyzing profitability, contract renewal rates, and relationship dynamics, identifying which contracts were most profitable and renewable, which companies had less personal relationships with me and therefore would be more receptive to management changes, and especially which consulting services she could theoretically execute with minimal competence through online research and hiring specialized freelancers who would work behind the scenes while she maintained the facade of an experienced owner. Ricardo, you significantly underestimate my intellectual capacity and life experience. During recent years, I carefully observed how you conduct your business, learned about business consulting through online courses, and especially identified improvement opportunities you weren't adequately leveraging due to your conservative and limited approach, she said with growing arrogance, revealing how the prospect of financial success had transformed her previously humble personality into something dangerously ambitious and manipulative. The condescension dripping from every word felt like acid on my skin, burning away any remaining illusions about the mother I thought I knew. Her voice carried the tone of a predator, explaining to prey why their capture was inevitable, a mixture of pride in her cunning and contempt for my supposed naivety in trusting her. Vera also admitted she had hired a lawyer specializing in corporate law to prepare partnership documents that would appear legitimate during any superficial verification performed by clients or financial institutions, including forged articles of incorporation with my signature, imitated with technical perfection, achieved through hundreds of practice attempts studying documents I had legitimately signed over the years, retroactive changes to the company registry at the Commerce Board through bribes paid to corrupt officials who had been carefully identified and approached with offers they couldn't refuse, and especially creating a convincing narrative about our long-standing family partnership that would justify her sudden rise to operational control of the company without raising suspicions about the criminal nature of the transition. The lawyer explained that children frequently include parents as partners in family businesses for succession planning and tax optimization reasons. So our situation would seem normal to anyone analyzing official documentation without knowing the intimate details of our family relationship, she explained, revealing how she had exploited specialized legal knowledge to make her crimes practically undetectable through conventional business verification methods. The clinical way she described her crimes, as if discussing a legitimate business strategy rather than elaborate fraud, revealed a complete disconnect from any moral framework that might have once guided her behavior. She had clearly spent months rationalizing her actions, constructing elaborate justifications that transformed theft into entrepreneurship and betrayal into business acumen. The most shocking aspect of that entire conversation was the gradual discovery that Vera had meticulously planned not just to steal my clients, but also to destroy my professional reputation in the consulting market through a systematic defamation campaign presenting me as an irresponsible and incompetent partner who had been removed from operational control due to performance and reliability problems. This wasn't just theft. It was complete character assassination, designed to ensure I could never recover professionally, even if I managed to expose her crimes. I've already started communicating to main clients that you were experiencing personal difficulties affecting your ability to deliver consistent results, including struggles with alcohol that were beginning to impact your professional judgment, and that the management transition was necessary to maintain the quality of services they expect and deserve, she said with a coldness that made me understand I wasn't just dealing with a mother who had committed fraud out of financial need, but with a professional criminal who had developed an elaborate plan to destroy my career and permanently assume my business identity. Her words revealed the crimes against me weren't the result of impulse or momentary desperation, but part of a calculated strategy to transfer my entire professional life to her through methods combining document fraud, psychological manipulation of clients, and systematic defamation of my reputation. The lie about alcohol problems was particularly vicious, as she knew I rarely drank and had always maintained impeccable professional conduct, but such rumors, once planted, would be impossible to completely eradicate from the industry gossip network. She had studied not just how to steal my business, but how to ensure I could never rebuild it, demonstrating a level of calculated cruelty that transcended mere financial crimes into something far more personal and vindictive. When I finally hung up after an hour of conversation alternating between disbelief, anger, and especially growing horror at the revelation of Vera's true criminal nature. I felt like I had just discovered my own mother had died and been replaced by a dangerous stranger using her face and voice to methodically destroy everything I had built during my adult life. The physical sensation of hanging up the phone was like severing an umbilical cord, except instead of giving birth to independence. It marked the death of the foundational relationship that had shaped my understanding of love, trust, and family. The silence that followed was deafening, filled with the echoes of every loving word she had ever spoken to me now revealed as potential lies. Every gesture of affection, possibly a manipulation, every moment of maternal pride perhaps a performance while she plotted my destruction. The feeling was simultaneously deep grief for the loss of the loving mother I thought I knew, and absolute terror at understanding I was being attacked by an experienced criminal with intimate access to all aspects of my personal and professional life. It was like waking up in a psychological horror movie where the killer had been my own family for years, silently studying my vulnerabilities and waiting for the perfect moment to destroy my existence through methods I could never have anticipated or adequately defended against. The discovery that Vera had consciously transformed into a predator who saw me as easy prey instead of a beloved son destroyed my ability to trust any relationship based on family or long-term emotional bonds. Every memory of childhood comfort, maternal protection, and family love now felt contaminated, as if she had been playing a decades-long confidence game, earning my trust only to exploit it when the stakes were highest. The first person I called after the devastating conversation with Vera was my wife Beatriz, who was on a business trip in São Paulo representing her company at a digital marketing conference, and had no idea our family's financial stability was being systematically destroyed through elaborate fraud committed by my own mother. My hands trembled as I searched for her contact in my phone. The familiar photo of her smiling face that appeared on screen, seeming to belong to a different universe where mothers didn't betray sons, and families provided sanctuary rather than danger. When she answered the phone during a break between presentations, her cheerful and relaxed voice dramatically contrasted with the panic dominating my mind after discovering the extent of Vera's crimes against our family. "Honey, how was your day? Is everything okay? You sound nervous." "Wait, Ricardo? What's wrong? Your voice is shaking," Beatrice asked with that sharp feminine intuition allowing her to identify emotional problems just from my voice tone, even through long-distance phone conversations. Her genuine and immediate concern made me feel simultaneously grateful for having a partner who truly cared about my well-being and devastated by the prospect of having to communicate that our financial security had been compromised by family crimes I hadn't been able to predict or adequately prevent. The normalcy of her concern, the everyday intimacy of a worried wife, felt like a lifeline to sanity in a world that had suddenly become surreal and threatening. During the next 20 minutes that felt like confessing to a crime I hadn't committed, I explained to Beatrice every detail of discovering the business fraud, from the moving trucks carrying my files to the conversation with Vera revealing the extent of the conspiracy against my company and professional reputation. My voice broke several times as I recounted Vera's transformation from mother to predator, and I could hear Beatrice's breathing change from calm to rapid as she processed the magnitude of betrayal. Beatrice listened to everything in growing silence, punctuated only by sharp intakes of breath and occasional gasps of disbelief, occasionally asking specific questions about dates, documents, and especially about how I had lost control over a company I had founded and developed exclusively through personal effort. "Ricardo, that's impossible. You would never sign partnership documents without consulting me, especially involving your mother who never showed interest or competence for business. You review restaurant receipts 3 times before filing them. There's no way you'd sign away half your company without reading every word," she said, confirming my own perception that something was fundamentally wrong with Vera's claims about supposedly consensually signed documents. Beatrice's validation of my memory and character helped me regain confidence in my own mental sanity, confirming I wasn't suffering from selective amnesia or memory disorders that could explain my inability to remember important business decisions. Her voice carried a mixture of indignation on my behalf and protective fury that reminded me why I had fallen in love with her fierce loyalty and unwavering support. "Beatrice, I need you to come home immediately. I've already started canceling all professional commitments this week and will need your help to understand exactly what happened to our company and especially how to recover our clients before Vera causes irreparable damage to my reputation in the market," I said, trying to maintain calm in my voice despite growing desperation threatening to paralyze me completely. The prospect of facing a complex legal battle against my own mother while simultaneously trying to save my professional career required all the emotional and strategic support Beatrice could offer through her experience in corporate crisis management and her ability to think clearly under pressure. Honey, I'm already packing my laptop and canceling my participation in the conference, booking the next flight. We'll solve this together, no matter what your mother has done or how many fake documents she's produced. That woman will not destroy what we've built together. Beatrice responded with determination, reminding me why I had chosen to marry a woman who faced problems head-on instead of running when situations became complicated or intimidating. Her immediate willingness to abandon her professional commitments to support me felt like armor against the isolation Vera had tried to create through her crimes. The second crucial call was to Andre, my best friend since business school, and now a lawyer specializing in corporate law with 15 years of experience dealing with complex fraud cases, who had helped me during the founding of Ricardo Business Consulting 8 years earlier, and knew intimately all the legal aspects of the corporate structure I had consciously established as an individual company, without partners of any kind. Andre answered immediately when he saw my name on the cell phone screen, probably detecting urgency in the fact I was calling during business hours on a Tuesday, when I would normally be busy with client meetings or project development. His voice carried the warmth of genuine friendship, combined with the professional alertness of someone accustomed to receiving crisis calls. Ricardo, great to hear your voice. How long has it been since we talked? How's business? And Beatrice? Wait, you sound terrible. What's happening? He said, his tone shifting from casual friendliness to professional concern as he detected the strain in my voice. When I explained to Andre the entire situation involving fraudulent business partnership documents supposedly making Vera my majority partner with rights to transfer clients to companies controlled by her, his reaction was professional disbelief followed by growing indignation as he understood the legal sophistication of the crimes committed. Ricardo, this is aggravated fraud, forgery of public documents, embezzlement, and possibly conspiracy if she had help from corrupt lawyers. These are serious crimes that could result in years of prison, regardless of her being your mother. Andre explained with legal authority, transforming my personal tragedy into a technical legal problem with specific solutions provided by Brazilian criminal code. His ability to immediately categorize and analyze the crimes helped me see the situation more objectively, transforming overwhelming emotional chaos into a series of legal challenges that could be systematically addressed. The most important thing now is to get copies of all fraudulent documents she's using to justify client transfers. Immediately contact the Commerce Registry to verify if there were unauthorized changes to your company registration, and especially start notifying all your clients about the fraud before she can consolidate control over the contracts. Andre also alerted me to legal aspects of the situation I hadn't considered during my initial panic, including the possibility that my clients could be considered involuntary accomplices if they continued working with Vera after being formally notified about the fraudulent nature of documents authorizing the business transfer. His strategic thinking revealed years of experience dealing with corporate criminals who exploited family relationships and trust to commit elaborate frauds. The contracts your client signed are specifically with Ricardo Business Consulting with you as sole owner and technical manager. Any change to that corporate structure would require their explicit consent, not just unilateral documentation produced by your mother, he explained, offering hope that at least some clients could be recovered through legal clarifications about the invalidity of fraudulent documents. I'll immediately start preparing legal documentation to contest all fraudulent changes to the company registry, request criminal investigation against your mother and possible accomplices, and especially prepare formal notifications for all your clients explaining they're victims of document fraud if they agree to transfer contracts based on forged documents, Andre said, his fingers already typing on his keyboard as we spoke, demonstrating the urgency with which he was treating my case. The prospect of initiating legal action against Vera caused me intense emotional conflict that felt like my soul was being torn in two directions, because it meant treating my own mother as a common criminal instead of a family member who had made mistakes out of financial desperation or age-related mental confusion. Every fiber of cultural conditioning about respecting elders, honoring parents, and maintaining family unity screamed against the necessity of criminal prosecution, while my rational mind understood that failing to act decisively would mean accepting the destruction of everything I had built. During our conversation, Andre helped me understand I had no ethical choice between protecting my mother or protecting my nuclear family. I had the moral obligation to protect my wife and financial future against serious crimes that would destroy our economic stability, if not fought through all available legal resources. Ricardo, Your mother stopped being just your family when she decided to become a criminal attacking your professional life. Now she's simultaneously your biological mother and a person committing serious crimes against you. And you have the legal and moral right to defend yourself using any necessary method to protect your company and reputation. Andre explained with a combination of legal wisdom and personal compassion, helping me emotionally separate the family aspects from the criminal aspects of the situation I faced. His words gave me permission to prioritize self-defense over misplaced loyalty, to choose my chosen family over my biological one when forced to make that terrible decision. The in-person meeting with Andre at his law office happened that same devastating Tuesday afternoon, in an elegant building downtown, dramatically contrasting with the emotional chaos dominating my mind since discovering maternal betrayal that morning. The pristine marble lobby, professional security guards, and efficient elevators seemed to belong to a rational world where laws protected victims and justice prevailed, offering hope that civilization's structures might still defend me against family predation. Andre had prepared his conference room with military precision, with printouts of relevant legal codes highlighting specific statutes that applied to my case, criminal complaint forms already partially filled with information he had gathered from our phone conversation, and especially a detailed strategic plan mapped out on a whiteboard to regain control over my company through simultaneous legal actions, attacking different aspects of Vera's crimes. Ricardo, I brought copies of all original documents from your company's founding, including the initial articles of incorporation clearly showing you as sole owner, subsequent changes filed with the Commerce Registry maintaining your exclusive ownership, and especially annual declarations proving you were always the sole legal owner of Ricardo Business Consulting without ever including partners of any kind, he said, methodically organizing evidence that would support our legal argument against document fraud. The weight of legitimate documentation, with official stamps and sequential protocol numbers, felt like weapons in an arsenal being prepared for war against the forgeries Vera had created. The detailed analysis of the company's original documents confirmed my memory about founding and developing the business exclusively through my own resources, without Vera's financial, technical, or administrative participation at any point during 8 years of operation. Each page we reviewed together rebuilt my confidence in my own history, confirming that I hadn't lost my mind but had been the victim of elaborate gaslighting designed to make me question reality itself. Andre meticulously compared my authentic signature on original documents with photographs of supposed signatures on fraudulent documents Vera had produced, using a magnifying glass to identify technical differences in handwriting that would prove forgery during official graphological analysis performed by judicial experts. The forgeries are technically competent, probably produced by someone with training in document falsification, but there are specific inconsistencies in pen pressure variations, letter inclination angles, and especially execution speed patterns that will reveal these signatures were produced through careful copying instead of the natural flow of your usual writing, Andre explained, demonstrating specialized knowledge about document fraud detection techniques that would be fundamental to criminally prove Vera had forged my authorization to transfer clients and alter the company's corporate structure. His analysis transformed my mother from a desperate woman into a calculating criminal who had either trained herself or hired experts to commit professional-level fraud. Andre also showed me copies of documents Vera had sent to my clients, revealing a level of criminal sophistication that terrified me with her ability to execute such elaborate fraud without raising immediate suspicion from companies receiving the forged documentation. The papers included official letters on Ricardo Business Consulting letterhead that had been perfectly reproduced, including watermarks and security features, service transfer contracts that appeared legitimate to anyone without intimate knowledge of the company's true structure with appropriate legal language, and formatting that suggested professional legal assistance, and especially detailed statements about my supposed personal decision to reduce active participation in business to focus on other professional projects, justifying my absence during the transition period to new management. The narrative she had constructed was internally consistent and psychologically plausible, painting a picture of a burned-out entrepreneur gradually transitioning responsibilities to a trusted family member. Ricardo, your mother clearly had professional help from someone with advanced knowledge of corporate law and document forgery techniques. This isn't the work of a person acting alone on impulse, but part of an elaborate conspiracy possibly involving corrupt lawyers, accomplice accountants, and possibly other criminals specialized in corporate fraud, Andre observed, meticulously examining every technical aspect of documents demonstrating specialized knowledge about business legal procedures. The realization that my mother had become part of a criminal network transformed my understanding of the threat level I faced. This wasn't just family betrayal, but organized crime targeting successful businesses through family vulnerabilities. The discovery that Vera had been aided by criminal professionals transformed my understanding of the situation. Instead of dealing with an elderly mother who had committed fraud out of financial desperation, I was facing a sophisticated criminal operation that had chosen me as a specific target due to my business success, and especially due to the privileged access Vera had to my personal life and confidential documents. This explains how she managed to forge my signature with technical perfection, produce convincing legal documents that would pass casual scrutiny, and especially develop a communication strategy that convinced all my clients to accept the transfer without questioning the legitimacy of received papers. I gradually understood, feeling a mixture of horror and reluctant admiration for the criminal competence demonstrated in executing crimes against my company. Andre developed a comprehensive legal plan simultaneously attacking multiple aspects of crimes committed against my company, including formal criminal complaint against Vera and her accomplices for aggravated fraud and document forgery, with sentences ranging from 2 to 6 years imprisonment, civil action to annul all fraudulent changes to the business registry seeking immediate injunction to freeze all transitions pending investigation, formal notification of all clients about the criminal nature of documents they had received with legal warnings about potential accomplice liability if they proceeded with unauthorized transfers, and a specially detailed investigation to identify all participants in the conspiracy, resulting in illegal appropriation of my most profitable contracts. We'll attack this criminal operation on all available legal fronts simultaneously, because allowing your mother to escape consequences would encourage other criminals to use similar methods against honest entrepreneurs who trusted family members with access to confidential information, Andre explained, transforming my personal tragedy into a comprehensive legal campaign that could establish important precedents to protect other entrepreneurs against family fraud. His strategic vision elevated my case from personal misfortune to a matter of broader legal significance that could influence how Brazilian courts handled family business fraud cases. The crucial first step was formally registering the criminal complaint at the police station specializing in financial crimes, an experience simultaneously liberating and devastating that forced me to definitively accept Vera had become a criminal who needed to be treated by the judicial system like any other professional fraudster. The police station was located in an austere government building downtown that seemed designed to remind visitors of the state's power to punish those who violated social order. With hallways lit by harsh fluorescent lamps creating an oppressive atmosphere appropriate for the kind of painful decisions I was being forced to make to protect my nuclear family against crimes committed by my extended family. When I arrived accompanied by Andre on that cold Wednesday morning that seemed more like winter than July, carrying a folder full of documentary evidence that would prove Vera's crimes beyond reasonable doubt, I felt like I was voluntarily walking to a funeral. The funeral of my maternal relationship and my innocence about moral limits supposedly loving people are willing to cross when motivated by financial greed. Each step through the police station's institutional corridors felt like moving further from the warm world of family love into the cold realm of legal justice, where biological relationships carried no special protection against criminal consequences. Detective Ferreira received me in a small windowless room that smelled of stale coffee and old paper, dominated by a gray metal desk covered with case files suggesting the overwhelming volume of financial crimes plaguing modern society, and especially by the old computer where he would type my formal complaint against the woman who had given birth to me 35 years earlier and was now systematically destroying everything I had built during my adult life. He was a serious man of 48, with dark hair already marked by gray strands revealing 2 decades investigating the darkest aspects of human nature, especially financial crimes exploiting trust relationships to cause devastating economic damage to victims. His eyes carried a weariness that suggested he had seen every possible variation of human betrayal, yet maintained enough professional compassion to treat each case with appropriate seriousness. Mr. Ricardo, I understand you wish to file criminal charges against family members for business fraud and embezzlement. Unfortunately, we see similar cases with increasing frequency, especially involving families where one person develops significant financial success that awakens greed in close relatives who feel entitled to share wealth they didn't help create, he said, demonstrating professional experience with situations combining family tragedy with sophisticated financial crimes. His matter-of-fact tone helped normalize my situation, making me feel less like a unique victim of unprecedented betrayal and more like another casualty in humanity's eternal struggle between trust and greed. During the next 3 hours that felt like reliving trauma in slow motion, I meticulously reported every aspect of discovering Vera's crimes, from the moving trucks carrying my confidential files to the analysis of forged documents she had used to convince my clients to transfer contracts to companies controlled exclusively by her. Detective Ferreira took detailed notes on the computer, his fingers flying across the keyboard with practiced efficiency, while occasionally interrupting my narrative to clarify event chronology. Financial values involved in stolen contracts worth over $500,000 in annual revenue, and especially physical evidence that would support criminal charges during eventual trial. Mr. Ricardo, from the reported facts we have here, a clear case of aggravated fraud due to high values involved exceeding 100 minimum wages. Forgery of public documents through fraudulent alteration of business records carrying mandatory prison sentences, conspiracy considering the participation of lawyers and other professionals in executing the crime suggesting organized crime involvement, and embezzlement through unauthorized transfer of contracts representing intellectual property and commercial relationships built through your personal work over 8 years, he observed, technically categorizing crimes in a way revealing the legal gravity of the situation I faced. Each criminal classification he mentioned carried specific sentencing guidelines that transformed my mother from a family member into a potential inmate in the federal prison system. The most emotionally devastating moment of filing the complaint came when Detective Ferreira directly asked if I understood the legal consequences of criminal charges I was making against my own mother, explaining with clinical precision that once formally processed, the complaint would inevitably result in police investigation, including searches of her residence, possible preventive detention if she was considered a flight risk or might destroy evidence, and eventual trial that could sentence Vera to several years in state penitentiary, where elderly inmates often faced particularly harsh conditions. The image of my mother in prison uniform, surrounded by hardened criminals, flashed through my mind with sickening clarity, but I pushed it away, focusing instead on images of Beatrice and our future children who deserved financial security. Detective, my mother made conscious choices when she decided to associate with professional criminals to destroy my company and steal contracts, representing my family's livelihood. Now I'm making my conscious choice to use all available legal resources to protect my wife and financial future against people who have proven dangerous, regardless of biological bonds that may exist between us, I responded, using words that sounded strange and formal coming from my mouth, but represented the only rational approach to a situation that had exceeded limits of normal family conflicts that could be resolved through conversation or mediation. The formality of legal language provided emotional distance from the raw pain of maternal betrayal, allowing me to function despite the psychological trauma. When I finally officially signed the criminal complaint against Vera Santos Silva, Carlos Alberto Mendez, the corrupt lawyer who had helped prepare fraudulent documents, and other yet unidentified accomplices in the conspiracy against my company, I felt simultaneously immense relief for having taken concrete action to defend myself and deep sadness for having reached the point where denouncing my own mother was the only way to protect my nuclear family against complete financial destruction. The official pen weighed like lead in my trembling hand as I signed each page of the complaint, formally transforming my biological mother into a criminal defendant who would face police investigation, possible imprisonment, and especially definitive destruction of any possibility of future family relationship between us. Andre held my shoulder throughout the signing process, offering silent support, reminding me I was making the morally correct choice, even if emotionally devastating. His presence anchoring me to rational reality when emotions threatened to overwhelm my resolve. The 15 days following the criminal complaint filing were marked by a systematic campaign of intimidation and emotional blackmail orchestrated by Vera and her criminal associates to convince me to withdraw charges before the police investigation advanced to stages where it would be impossible to avoid serious legal consequences for everyone involved in the conspiracy. Their strategy combined veiled threats of physical violence with psychological pressure based on family guilt, creating an environment of constant fear that daily tested my determination to seek legal justice instead of yielding to emotional manipulations based on distorted notions of unconditional maternal loyalty. Vera called my cell phone several times a day, always crying dramatically, and claiming her health was rapidly deteriorating due to the terrible stress of being criminally investigated by her own son, whom she had sacrificed so much to raise and educate during decades of unconditional love. Each call was a masterclass in emotional manipulation, deploying every psychological weapon a mother could use against a son's conscience. The sentence was delivered 3 weeks after final hearings concluded, in a session lasting only 20 minutes, but permanently defining Vera's fate and establishing important precedents about how the Brazilian judicial system treats financial crimes committed between close family members. Vera was sentenced to 5 years imprisonment in semi-open regime for aggravated fraud, forgery of public documents, and conspiracy, while Carlos Alberto Mendes received a 7-year sentence in closed regime due to his extensive criminal record and role as intellectual mentor of the conspiracy. The judge also determined full restitution of all financial damages caused to my business, including lost contracts valued at over $2 million in projected revenue, damage to professional reputation requiring costly marketing campaigns to restore, and especially legal costs exceeding $100,000 related to company recovery and criminal prosecution. After Vera's conviction and legal recovery of control over my company, I spent the next 6 months working intensively to win back clients who had been fraudulently transferred, and especially to rebuild my professional reputation, damaged by lies she had spread in the market about my supposed business incompetence and personal problems. Most clients returned quickly after receiving detailed clarifications about the criminal nature of documents they had received, especially when they understood they had been victims of elaborate fraud, instead of voluntary participants in legitimate business restructuring. The process of rebuilding required not just legal vindication, but active demonstration that my services remained